After my husband passed away, the house fell silent. It was a deafening quiet, filled with the ghosts of laughter and conversations I'd never hear again. For 2 years, I drifted through that silence, a hollow shell of the person I used to be. My world was just me and my daughter, Emma. I focused on her, on being the strong mom everyone said I was. But strong was just a mask for surviving. I was simply going through the motions, day after day, in a life that had lost its color. Then, one sunny afternoon, everything shifted. Emma came home from school with her best friend, Sophie, trailing behind her. I'd seen Sophie a million times, of course. She was practically a fixture in our home, a whirlwind of teenage energy. But on that particular day, as she stood in my kitchen with sunlight filtering through the window, catching in her hair and making her laugh sparkle, I really her, and for the first time in years, a warmth spread through my chest, a feeling I thought was long dead. I immediately pushed it down, scolding myself. She was Emma's best friend. A kid. It was wrong, inappropriate, completely off limits. But Sophie, she had this uncanny ability to dismantle every wall I put up. She started spending even more time at our house, not just studying with Emma, but lingering in the kitchen while I cooked. She'd lean against the counter, teasing me about my mom playlists and asking about recipes with genuine interest. She made me feel seen, not just as Emma's mom, but as a person. One evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Sophie stayed to help me with the dishes. We ended up at the kitchen table, nursing cups of tea long after the kitchen was clean. She opened up to me, sharing her dreams and her fears, telling me how her parents never seemed to understand her. The way she looked at me, it was with an intensity and focus that made me feel like the only person in the world. I realized then how desperately I had missed being looked at that way. I tried to pull back, to rebuild the boundaries. I reminded myself of my age, my role as a mother, the impossible gap between us. But Sophie either didn't see the lines I was drawing or simply chose to step over them. When my car broke down, she was the one offering to drive me to work. When I was having a particularly rough day, she'd appear at the door with my favorite ice cream. She coaxed laughter out of me when all I wanted to do was cry. She was slowly, carefully bringing me back to life. And with that life came a dangerous, exhilarating feeling. I wanted more. The turning point came on a rainy Tuesday night. Emma was at a sleepover, and the house was quiet again. But this time it felt lonely, not peaceful. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It was Sophie, completely soaked from the storm, a sheepish grin on her face. "You'll catch your death," I scolded, my heart hammering as I rushed to grab her a towel. She just smiled, her eyes twinkling. "What about you? You look like you could use some company." We ended up on the couch, wrapped in blankets, listening to the rain beat against the windows. The air between us was thick with unspoken words, charged with an energy that was both terrifying and thrilling. Her gaze kept flickering from my eyes to my lips and back again. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. My own voice was just as soft when I asked, "Then why are you?" She swallowed, her eyes holding mine. "Because I want to be..." And then, before my rational mind could scream stop, I closed the distance between us and kissed her. It was hesitant, gentle, but it sent a shockwave through my entire being. It was my first kiss since my husband died. My first kiss with a woman. And in that one moment, it felt more right than anything had in years. Of course, that kiss made everything infinitely more complicated. Our lives became a series of stolen moments, a lingering touch in the hallway, a shared glance across the dinner table that held a world of meaning. Every time Emma turned her back, a wave of guilt would wash over me. I was torn between the fierce, protective love I had for my daughter and this new, overwhelming desire that I couldn't seem to control. Finally, the guilt became too much. One night, I told Sophie we had to stop. "This is wrong," I said, my voice breaking. "You're Emma's best friend, if she ever found out." But Sophie wouldn't let me finish. She took my hand, her grip firm, her eyes blazing with a conviction that startled me. "What we have isn't wrong," she said. "You're not wrong. You're alive, and you deserve to be loved." Her words didn't just break down my walls. They shattered them completely. Emma found out anyway, not from us, but by walking in on a moment she shouldn't have seen. She came into the living room one morning to find Sophie giving me a soft kiss on the cheek. The silence that followed was heavier and more painful than any argument could have been. I saw the look in my daughter's eyes, a raw mix of confusion, hurt, and utter betrayal. "How could you?" she choked out, looking from me to Sophie. "Both of you." Then she turned and ran, slamming the door behind her. That night was the longest of my life. I sat in the dark, certain I had destroyed the most precious relationship I had. I had lost my daughter, but Sophie didn't run. She stayed. She sat with me, held me while I sobbed, and whispered, "We'll face her anger together. I'll face it with you. Because what we have, it's real, and it's worth fighting for." The weeks that followed were excruciating. Emma wouldn't speak to me. The silence in the house was back, but this time it was laced with anger. But Sophie was right. We faced it together. Slowly, tentatively, Emma started to let us back in. She was still hurt, still confused, but she began to see that Sophie hadn't taken her place, that my love for her was as unshakable as ever. She saw that Sophie genuinely cared for me, that she made me happy. One evening, about a month later, the three of us were sitting at the dinner table in awkward silence. Emma kept looking from my face to Sophie's. Finally, she let out a huge sigh and muttered, "Just don't be gross around me, okay?" Sophie and I both started laughing through our tears. It was a truce. It was a chance. My daughter was giving us a chance. It's been a year now since that stormy night. A year since I chose to live again. I'm still a widow, and I'm still Emma's mom, but I'm no longer just surviving. Our life is complicated, and I know some people will never understand. Love rarely shows up in the neat, tidy packages we expect. Sometimes it's messy and inconvenient and arrives when you least expect it, turning your world upside down. Sophie taught me that my story didn't end with loss. She reminded me that I could still laugh, still hope, and still love. And every time she takes my hand, I know with absolute certainty that I didn't just fall for my daughter's best friend. I found my second chance at happiness. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt like your story was over, I hope this reminds you that there's always another chapter waiting to be written. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories.